I went on my first elk hunt when I was 18 years old, and I have been absolutely nuts over them ever since. So much so that I started an outfitting business and have been guiding hunters for 29 years. Elk is one of, well, I like them all, but elk is still way up there as far as one of my favorite things to guide for. And over the years, I've been pretty lucky to harvest quite a few elk with my recurve, my compound, and even a rifle occasionally. This picture is one of me back when I was a young fella. Yeah, I know I'm a little skinnier, my hair's not gray, but that's what started me out. Since then, I've harvested elk in quite a few different states and have been very fortunate to harvest not only quite a few on public land, but quite a few on private land as well.
Look at this bull. I mean, he's a big, beautiful 6x6.
The tactics that I use that have helped me get close to elk have worked not only for me and my family, but also for our clients. I'm gonna run you through a few of our favorite hunts where me, our guides, or somebody in our family worked elk in super close. Then I'm gonna show you some of the things that we've done to help that happen. I hope it helps you on your next elk hunt. Well, I'm one to take advantage of anything that I think helps give me a little bit of the edge. Now don't get me wrong, do I think there is one cure-all that is gonna help you kill an elk every single time? Not at all. But do I think that it's a combination of a whole lot of things that may give you a 5% or 10% advantage over somebody else that's not doing that? Heck yes. Now, right off the bat, I wanna tell you that 90% of the time, I'm using a cow call. I know a lot of people are huge fans of bugling, but this is how I look at it. With a cow call, I can bring in a young bull that's not dominant. He's gonna think there's a cow that wants to hang out with him, or that he just wants to run with because he's lonely and wants some company. I can also bring in a big, large, dominant bull, because a cow call, well, that's exactly what he's looking for, especially during the rut. Now, do I ever use bugles? Sure I do. There's times I'll use a bugle call to locate. There's times I'll use a bugle call to hack off a bull. Maybe he's not gonna leave his cows and come to me, but he keeps bugling answering. Well, I may slip right up into his bedroom, let loose a bugle to where he finally can't stand it, and he'll come running out to try and fight me. At least he will some of the time. In my opinion, a lot of people make elk hunting sound pretty tough. You have to be an amazing caller. You have to be able to bugle with a big 3-tone bugle. You have to be able to do this, do that. I don't think it's that way at all. I think if you can do a few cow calls, you're absolutely great. I think if you pay attention to scent, that's gonna help you out even more. Make sure your wind's not going towards the animals. That's the main basics. I use a cow call most of the time, and I only use a bugle sparingly. The biggest mistake you can make when you're calling is calling too loud or too much. So a lot of my routines, even if I'm blind calling, and by blind calling, I mean, I don't know if there's an elk within earshot, I'm just gonna set up, make a few soft calls, and see if an elk can hear me. Here's an example of what I'll do when I'm at a setup. I'll usually make 3 to 4 really soft cow elk calls. Sometimes I'll throw in a little whiny kind of an estrus cow call, and then I'll sit and wait for 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes it'll take elk quite a bit to come sneaking in, especially before the rut. You may have a bull that's interested, but he's not so interested he's gonna come charging in. He may come slipping in really quiet and slow, so I like to give him a little time to show up. Because I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of times I've cow called, sat for 15 to 20 minutes, stood up to try another spot, and blown an elk out that was coming into me. Here's a series of calls that I'll use when I'm set up and just trying to call an elk in close. Just as simple as that. A couple soft little plaintive cow calls to let an elk know that there's another elk in the area. During the rut, Or if I'm getting up on some elk and I really want to try and pull a bull off a group of cows, I may step it up a notch. I'll do something like that to make those elk lose their minds. That'll step it up like, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to breed, big boy. Come on over here and check me out. Leave the girls you're with and come take a look at me. If you listen to elk tapes or elk audio, or go to a park and listen to elk talking, you'll hear all kinds of different elk sounds. Like turkeys, you don't have to sound perfect, you just have to sound close. Well, if you know me, then you know I'm not a trophy hunter. Although I've shot some really good bulls in the past, and I've certainly put some clients on some great bulls. For me, I love elk meat, and I love the first opportunity I get. So if my first opportunity comes at a cow, a spike where legal, a small bull, well, that's gonna be the one I take home. Now, sometimes I will focus on big bulls for clients, but for me, I want every elk in. And that's why I usually go with a cow call. If I was just going after huge dominant bulls, well, then I'd probably bugle a lot more than I do. When I do bugle, I'll usually make it soft. I'll make it usually two-tone, not a big, huge. I don't want to sound like the biggest bull in the mountain. I want to sound like a bull that any other bull of the mountain can come over and kick my butt. So here's an example of a bull call that I'll use when I do bugle and try and locate an elk, or slip up on one that's already bedded and try and get him to leave his cows to come run me off. That's it. Something short, simple, and if you hear an elk bugle when he's running, he's not making a beautiful bugle. If you watch a bull that's bugling as he's moving, it's usually fast. A bull that's standing there, maybe not full peaked up in the rut or not chasing a cow at the time, he may rip off a big, huge three-tone bugle with a lot of chuckling at the end. But a bull that's worked up, chasing other bulls off, chasing cows, the bull that you want to try and call in, well, a lot of times he sounds like this. It's quick, it's fast, and it's because he's out of breath. He's running, he wants everybody to know he's there, but he's chasing a cow or he's chasing another bull off. So, you don't have to sound perfect, you just have to sound close, especially during the rut. Some other non-typical things you could do to call elk in is rattling. Rattling is a great way to get elk to come in and check you out. Just like a white-tailed deer, elk get excited when they hear other bulls fighting. They come in to check it out. Other bulls will come in to check it out. Now, do I carry giant 350-inch sheds out there and rattle with them? Heck no, I want to sound like a raghorn. I want to sound like a couple younger bulls that may have cows with them, so a big bull may run over there, not only to kick my butt, but to hopefully pick up a few extra cows. Another tactic that me and a lot of the guides, including my family, use a lot is elk scent. Elk scent can save the day. I use scent when I'm predator hunting. A lot of times I'll put it on my call, I'll put it on my boots, I'll put it around my set. It'll help hold that predator, whether it's a coyote, a bobcat, a fox, for a couple extra seconds to give me a shot. That's exactly what I'm looking for when I use elk scent. I want that couple of extra seconds. I just need an elk to smell that other elk and think, oh, even if I'm directly upwind of it, if it smells me and an elk, I want it to stand there for a couple more seconds before it whirls out. A lot of times, that makes all the difference in the world. Well, unlike back in the day when I started, just like calls, there's all kinds of different elk scents on the market. I prefer the Conquest scent, the Evercalm series. I worked with the guys from Conquest on it, and I think it's the best one out there for me and what I do. It's got a deodorant stick that I can put on blinds, and it'll help keep those elk around. If I've got an elk working into a call and I'm in a tree stand or a ground blind, I'll spray some as the elk's coming in, just to try and calm them down so they smell elk scent. Even if they get a whiff of me, I want them to smell elk. If I have that couple extra seconds, sometimes that makes all the difference. Well, there's a lot of things that have changed over the years in hunting, but just like I don't go duck hunting or turkey hunting without a decoy, it's pretty rare I go elk hunting without a decoy. They certainly don't work all the time, but when they do work, it can make the difference between getting the shot and not getting the shot. Michelle's literally hidden behind the elk decoy to make the shot. Now, one thing with any decoy on the market is you always have to think safety. You have to know who's hunting, where they're hunting, and where the best place to be is. The safest place and the best place to be with an elk decoy is to have it out in front of you or behind you in a safe position so you don't have to worry about other hunters shooting at something that is an actual picture of a real elk. The decoys I use are actual pictures of a real elk, so they look real. So you always want to think safety before using one. I like decoys that are lightweight. I like ones that I can roll up and stick in my pack in case I don't want to use one or don't have the right situation. I like the Montana elk decoy because it's lightweight, it's versatile, and I've worked with those guys on different ways to set it up so you can be ready to hunt quickly and not struggle and try to set up your decoy. I also like the advantage of being able to get away from the decoy. Sometimes I want that decoy 40 yards behind me. That way, as the elk's coming past me going to the decoy, I'm gonna get a 15-yard shot with my recurve or a 20-yard shot. Sometimes I want that decoy angled in a different position to bring an elk past me broadside so I can position an elk to give me the best shot that I need. A decoy can be a huge confidence builder as well. I've used them out in open fields where a lot of times the elk wouldn't normally come out there until dark. But if they hear a few soft cow calls and they look out and see some decoys that look just like real elk already out in the field, well, I've had them run out and go right to them. One other tip I have for elk is a lot of people don't use whitetail tactics on elk. I do a lot because they work. Tree stands, ground blinds, tripod stands, even on public land areas, I will throw a Millennium stand on my back, hike it in, set it up over a wallow, over an active trail for the same reasons you hunt whitetails that way. Although whitetails really don't make wallows. But I'll set it up so I've got the scent coming out, I've got an elevated position, I can see better, and I'm set up for when the animal shows up. A tree stand can be a super effective way to harvest an elk. He is absolutely gorgeous. Well, here's a couple hunts where I use some really soft calling, a Montana decoy, and some conquest scent to have some really close encounters. On this one, I just had a GoPro in my head. I was hunting by myself. I'd set up the decoy behind me and I called this bull in right in front of me. When he stepped out right in front of me, you could actually see from my GoPro as my recurve comes back and I shoot this bull right in the lungs. He ran about 80 yards and fell over right in front of me. And that to me is a perfect setup. Just last year, I was using my recurve bow and some conquest scent because the wind was swirling around. I called in a herd of elk, and even though there was a big bull in the back, there was a big tasty cow that beat him into my shooting lane. So, that's the one I shot. Look at that big, beautiful cow elk. That is awesome. Another tactic that we use a lot is having the collar behind the shooter. A lot of people know that one. A lot of people have been doing that for a long time. I bet the cavemen were even doing that. But it's super important today. One of the reasons you do that is because as the elk's coming in, you've got your shooter up ahead, and if it hangs up, they're still gonna get a shot in range. Now, the great thing about incorporating a decoy into that is if an elk starts to circle to hit downwind, if they see the decoy, it almost always stops the circling. The success I've had with decoys is because they saw the decoy, turned, and started to come straight at it. So I now try and position my decoy where if the elk's coming to it, I'm gonna get a broadside shot. I hope you enjoyed some of my favorite encounters, and I hope some of the tips help you get in bow range of an elk.